Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Andersen of Madison Maximize Living. Today we're going to be on Dr. Pat's adjusting table, where Maximize Living begins. We're covering natural approaches to chronic mid-back pain, including many of the causes in our lifestyles like traumas and poor posture. We're actually going to demonstrate a clinical examination, and we'll also demonstrate typical adjustment setups and a host of helpful exercises. Join co-host Stacy Hansen and myself as we cover Dr. Pat's adjusting table, chronic mid-back pain, coming up next.
Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Andersen. We're talking about chronic mid-back pain today, which a lot of you out there may be suffering from. Now, before Dr. Pat explains to us what it is, where it comes from, how to fix it, I wanted to make sure everyone knows that you're really an expert at this. I understand you've done some teaching as well.
Yeah, I've been on the National Board of Extremity Adjusters for 35 years. And I've been a postgraduate faculty member of 6 chiropractic colleges off and on.
Excellent.
And I've traveled in Europe and Canada and the United States teaching about 2,000 hours of continuing ed for chiropractors. So it's just my passion to be able to share what we would talk about in more layman's terms for the audience.
So you're hearing what Dr. Pat would teach chiropractors. You're basically getting right to the source here. So definitely a great expert to have talk about this. So let's talk about kind of the extent of this problem. Chronic mid-back pain, how many people would you say are suffering from this?
Well, about 30% have an episode of mid-back pain every year.
Wow, that's a lot.
And a lot of people have constant mid-back pain. So it's an epidemic problem, and we can do a lot for it.
So there's a lot of people out there with this problem. Is there a common cause, or where is it coming from? Is it just the way people are sitting at their desks all the time?
Well, there's a lot of different causes for it, but first, as we look at the anatomy, start to understand the mid-back a little bit better. I brought my good friend Slim with me here.
You may have noticed we've been kind of haunted from behind here, but this is an old friend of Dr. Pat's.
Yes, he's been with me since the beginning, faithful. So when you look at the structure, there's 12 vertebrae making up the thoracic spine, or thorax, and then there's 12 sets of ribs that come off of each of those vertebrae. So there's 7 vertebrae in the neck and 5 in the lower back, so there's many in the mid-back as the neck and low back together. One of the challenges with the structure here is that the ribs hold the rib cage fast, so it's hard to get good movement. And so with the head going forward, or too much or too little of an arch or a slump in the back, it puts a lot of stress on the mid-back. So as these vertebrae rotate or misalign, they'll put pressure on the joints, they'll irritate the nerves, they'll not let the joint move properly, the disc can degenerate. And they'll put pressure on the ribs, which many times can be felt all the way around the front, even up into the front of the rib cage when a rib is out of alignment. So there's mid-back pain coming from a flattened area in here often, or a lower mid-back pain coming from a rounded area or a pushed forward area there as well. But the effects of misalignment in the mid-back really push on the ribs and can cause all kinds of symptoms coming all the way around, even to the front of the sternum.
Oh.
So people can actually have a chest pain, a sense of chest pain. It's actually a rib out of alignment at the sternum.
So that could be a relief if you're feeling something like that's maybe what's causing it. And you can see here that everything's really tightly aligned, and then it just seems like the slightest thing could really just be poking your ribs or something the wrong way.
Well, we're pretty adaptable, but if something's not taken care of for a long time, it starts to get weaker and more susceptible, stiffer, more frail. And especially in the case of the mid-back, because the ribs hold everything so tight, there's not a lot of movement. So we'll be talking later about some of the exercises that can be done and things, what an exam looks like, and what exercises can be done both generally and specifically to help the spine.
So there's some movements you can do to get that back to where it should be. Well, stay with us. We'll have more about mid-back pain right after this. Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Andersen. We're talking about chronic mid-back pain, and before the break we were looking at Slim here and talking about some of the misalignments that can cause mid-back pain, and some of them can actually circle right around to the front.
Yes.
So you could
cause rib pain or sternal pain.
So you could be having that too, even, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have known that. So we've talked a little bit about what the causes are, what's causing the pain, but what's causing the actual misalignment itself? How is it getting like that?
Yeah, or the subluxation, as we like. It's our one word we ask every chiropractic patient to know. Is that subluxation or misalignment? Well, there's a lot of causes for it. One, of course, is trauma. You know, falling on an outstretched arm, being tackled in football, lifting something heavy. I've seen a lot of weightlifting injuries, bench press injuries to the mid-back. Falls, but also baseball, swinging a baseball bat, swinging a golf club asks a lot of the mid-back and the dorsal spine to turn. Of course, it's a one-sided movement too, so that develops imbalances. So that's one of it. Another one is long sitting.
Yeah.
Just imagine forward head posture and looking at a computer, and then the slumping that happens, what that does to round the back. And of course, the more rounded the back, the more it wants to round. And so that puts a lot of pressure on the joints and the nerves, and then the muscles get tight and toxic, and they hold their waste products and start to ache. Sitting for a long time in and of itself is harder on the mid-back and the entire spine, actually. Stress is a factor. Stress through the 11th cranial nerve goes right to the trapezius muscles right here, and those run down the mid-back.
Yeah.
So that'll affect the back. Sleep posture, stomach sleeping is hard on the entire spine, including the mid-back. Or some people actually sleep on one side of their body only. So it's good to switch sides as much as you can. So, or back sleeping is usually the best. But there also pain can come in the back from what we call referred pain from the organs. A typical site is right under the right shoulder blade area here, right inside the scapula, from a referred pain from a gallbladder issue.
Oh, really?
So you can have
Way
referred pain, and you get pain in this region here from stomach issues. So you can get what's called referred pain. An organ is causing a problem, and it can refer pain into that area.
And up so high too. I never would have thought that that's what it was. So really it could be a host of different things. And you had mentioned poor posture in there, and I imagine that's a big one for a lot of people, because a lot of people do spend a lot of time sitting and looking at a computer. What can be done about that, or why is it so important?
Well, it's so important. Norman Shealy, an MD in the Shealy Institute, said that poor posture affects every structure and every function of the body. That's how important posture is. So for example, if you were to slump, and if our viewing audience can do that, just slump like this, in this horrible posture. Now in that posture, take as deep a breath as you can. Without moving. You can't, can you? It just affected your lung capacity. Would that be important for the oxygen in your body? So now lift your sternum up. I'll take a deep breath. See the complete different lung capacity. So that's the lungs. Well, with the heart, the American Geriatric Society said if you have forward head posture, which often is related to a rounded back, and you try to lay flat on your back and your head's still suspended, or you lay back and your head has to go like this to touch instead of just touching naturally, has to be way extended. If your head is suspended, for every 3/4 inch of suspension, there's a 44% increase in death per year.
Wow, 44%.
And it held true that it was 1.5 inches, it doubled. 2 1/4, it doubled again, up to 5 centimeter spaces.
Is it just squeezing everything like
it's
that?
It's affecting the heart and lung function in that. That's how important posture is. Plus, we know that it affects the brainstem when we have poor posture as well. So there's really two types of posture. I think this is really important. The vast majority of people, probably 90–95% of people, will fit in one of two categories in their posture. They'll either have a slump posture, where they're rounded in the back, and this might be a sitting posture you find yourself in. It's not good. Or they have what we call a rocket posture, where their lower dorsal spine is actually forward. They kind of stand like this. They're arched forward, and then everything is straining the back that way. Those fundamental structures really affect the mid-back as well.
Interesting. And you don't see this one as often, it seems like.
It's about 20-30% of the time. Most of the time it's a slump posture,
I see that all the
loss
time.
of the lumbar curve, tucked under pelvis, forward head posture, and a big roundness either in the upper back or even in the mid-back that we call a kyphosis.
So look in the mirror and see if that's you. Stay with us. We'll have more on relieving your chronic mid-back pain right after this. Back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Andersen. We've been talking about chronic mid-back pain today, and we've talked about some of the causes of it. We've looked at skeleton to sort of visualize it, but can you check me? I want to see what it's like on an actual person, what you would do in an exam if someone was to come in.
Sure, be happy to. So we'll do what we would call a regional exam. Typically we would examine the whole spine, but for the purpose of the show, we'll just examine the mid-back.
Okay.
So if you would face that way.
All right.
And just look straight ahead. So we're going to look at her posture, and one of the main things is to look at the level of the shoulders, which are completely level, by the way.
Great.
But a common thoracic problem is one shoulder would be much higher, and that's just a sign of a curvature in the upper back. And then we look to see if the head is forward in front of the middle of the shoulder and the middle of the ear. If the head is forward, that's a big stressor on the back. Then we look for the general contour of the upper thoracic spine here. Sometimes people will get a hump, a dowager hump, or a excess roundness here. Then we look to see if the spine is forward here compared to the pelvis, or if it's slumped backwards. And a palpation is very helpful because any joint that's out of alignment will typically be tender as we put percussion pressure on it. And then there's assessment of range of motion leaning to the side, looking for any fixations or blockages of movements, rotations, normal flexion and extension. Those things are some normal things we look for, see if everything's moving the way it should. And then, of course, palpating specific muscles for the tension they have. And if you would lie on your back, Stacy.
Okay.
While we're on our back, we'll often, this is where we'll check leg length. If there's any misalignment in the spine, there can be a leg length discrepancy.
Okay.
Muscle strength testing is really important as well. With the mid-back, if there's subluxations in the mid-back, often the rhomboid muscle will be weak. So we tuck that elbow close to your side, and I try to pull out so you're strong.
Yeah.
Another muscle test that's very helpful is a serratus anterior muscle, which is where you just punch up like that and try to hold it, and then I push down and you're rock solid.
Okay, good.
Just to be sure, we'll check the other side.
All right. So
Punch up and resist. And that's rock solid. And there's a condition right inside the scapula in the upper back where the ribs actually misalign and cause a lot of deep, boring pain just in the upper back. It's a chronic condition for a lot of people, and it's a life-changing adjustment.
If it was to go back, you know you've got that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and you know that's the joints interfering with the muscle function. So let's put you face down now if we can.
Okay. See if I can rearrange.
And I'll just kind of demonstrate several different styles of adjusting that can be done. There's hundreds of different adjustments, so let your arms go right down like this. So if the spine is really posterior with one of the slump postures, the T12, an adjustment in this fashion can be very beneficial. And then palpating to see if there's any segments that are more prominent or posterior, and that can be adjusted in this way. With the ribs, often a rib head can be sticking out. It's about 2 inches lateral to the spine, and a rib head can be prominent and fixated. So there's specific adjustments to come in and adjust a rib head like that. And commonly, the upper thoracic spine will rotate where there can be an adjustment where turn your head to the right, for example, and then we come in and get just the right tension and stress, and we'll come across adjusting rotation of the upper thoracic, which is just so important for upper back pain because huge muscles are attaching here and causes a lot of trouble. So when we think of muscles involvement, we think of the trapezius muscle. So part of the test is always to grasp the muscles and see if they're tight and tender. And the rhomboid muscles can have trigger point therapy. And even the erector spinae and lumbodorsal muscles can get deep tissue work as well to be very helpful. All set, Stacy?
Well, I learned a lot there too, and there was a couple things. I definitely felt it a little bit right there, and I bet that's common. So we'll stay with us. We'll have more great information right after this. Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Andersen. We're talking about chronic mid-back pain today, and we just went through an exam and some demonstration of some of the adjustments that you can have done, but there are some exercises that you can do at home, so we wanted to show you those as well. So what's something that a lot of people could get a lot of benefit from?
Well, we use in our office spinal warm-up exercises, and it's particularly good for the mid-back, which doesn't get very good movement throughout the day because the rib cage is holding it fast. So the first one is to just sit up and then slump and then arch forward and let your spine go through a complete arch. Particularly good for the mid-back. And we'll do about 20 of those reps. 1, 2, 3, like that.
So that's good for anybody.
Yeah. And another one, unless you have any discomfort or dizziness with it, then be sure to talk to your doctor or chiropractor. The next one is a side bend, which is particularly good because the ribs are holding that rib cage so tight it's hard to get movement. And on this one, you just hold your arms up and then you tip to the side, relaxing your neck and your mid-back as you go both ways.
Okay.
And again, count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. The next one is a rotation exercise, so we get in each direction. And the discs are thinner in the mid-back, but getting that movement will help keep them healthy and slow down any degeneration. So arch the back, arms up here for a little leverage, and then rotate left and right, turning your body as far as you can each way. Again, count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. If you're dizzy, you can leave your head in the center.
Okay.
All right, so those are a couple general exercises that are really good. More specifically, if you have a flat mid-back, more of the rocket posture like this, then we can do what's called a chest expander, where you put your hands, take a deep breath, put your hands together, and roll your shoulders together and push with your hands, push together with your hands. And you'll feel your spine and lungs.
Yeah, you
your
feel
lungs
that
pushing your spines
back.
backwards, and it's a great stretch for someone with a flat back in that area. Now, if you have the opposite posture where there's a slumping going on and you're rounded like this, there's weakness in the muscles in the lumbodorsal spine. So a praying mantis works pretty well. So raise your arms to a 90-degree position, and this looks like it wouldn't be hard, but it's really hard. And elevate as high as you can your elbows.
Oh, wow.
And you'll really feel it in that lumbodorsal spine.
Yeah, you really do.
And you just hold that for like 30 seconds or so. Those are isometric exercises that we can do seated.
Interesting how such a small movement like that can have such a big impact on your back. What are some of the other things that you can do?
Well, we'll do some standing ones where we can show you rowing exercises and the like.
Okay, let's do those.
Okay.
Okay, so for these standing exercises, I see you've got the resistance band there. What do you recommend with this now?
Well, I've got two great exercises. One's a rowing exercise. If you'd hold those, I'll just be the resistance like it was in a door frame. And then pull towards you in a rowing movement.
Just straight back?
Yeah. And a little bit higher.
Higher, like this?
Right there.
Okay, so your hands are kind of right by the armpits there?
In between.
In between?
Right there.
Right there?
Half
okay.
the rib cage. There you go. And that's a great exercise to do, 3 sets of 12 to 15 to 20. I love that exercise for the mid-back.
Yeah, that's a good one. You can feel it there.
Yeah. Now there's another one that's even more fun.
Okay.
This one I call the hostage position. Hopefully you haven't had a lot of experience with the hostage position.
No, not at all. Hopefully not.
And what you do then is take your arms and move into a 90-degree angle.
Okay.
From there, all the way up. And I'll give you a little less resistance. I didn't choose the heaviest band, but and go back
Being
like
in
that.
heels probably doesn't help. But oh yeah, I can definitely feel that.
So this is so incredibly good for the upper
back.
Yeah. This kind of resistance.
Yeah, that one I haven't done before, and that
it's
you can feel it.
Exercise. You feel so good after doing it.
Yeah, it does.
And
feel
other
really
things
good.
that can be done are body weighting. One of which is a chest weight. So if someone has a slumped mid-back posture, putting a chest weight on at about that position will stop this roundness like this, and your body will react and straighten. And if you've got a major curvature in your upper back, we even use head weighting, positioned just a certain way to help with the weight. So let's put this on like this. And this will actually, and I'll just hold it there because we didn't set it completely. But as she stands with a weight right up above or center of skull mass, our body's going to pull back against that and actually strengthen and help correct any upper back curvatures. And it's some really new, cool work that we're doing.
It's interesting how just that little bit, I think you said it was a 1 pound weight,
Yeah.
but that little bit, you really feel it and you really try to compensate for it. Well, so many cool things you can do at home. Stay with us, we'll have more right after this.
Thanks for watching our show on Dr. Pat's Adjusting Table, Chronic Mid-Back Pain. Hopefully you've learned about good sitting posture, what a mid-back exam and adjustment looks like, and general and specific mid-back exercises. If you're having mid-back pain, be sure to be evaluated by a doctor of chiropractic. A typical visit includes evaluating posture, motion, strength, palpation, orthopedic tests, and x-rays as necessary. If you or your family or friends are having back pain, call 608-833-1282 for a checkup today. For Maximized Living, I'm Dr. Patrick Andersen. Until next time, live well and God bless.